Hey guys, Matters That Matter here, possibly finishing up our review of Adeptus Mechanicus for 8th edition Warhammer 40k. So we have 3 units left to go, 2 that are extremely similar, and then the Onager Dunecrawler. So if we have enough time, we're not pushing 30 minutes, we'll get the Dunecrawler. If not, I'm going to break the video, however they will both be out the same day. So let's go ahead and dive right into it with the Iron Strider Ballistarii. Uh, it is a fast attack option with a power level of 4. So a few things have changed from 7th to 8th for you veterans of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Things that you're going to want to know is that its movement is upped by 1, so its movement 10 now. However, you have to consider that its movement has changed, so it no longer has the special rule Dune Strider, so when it advances it does not add 3, and when it charges it no longer adds 3 as well. However, that's not really going to be too much of concern, because this thing is just a little gunboat. A very mobile one at that. I consider it kind of a fast response unit. It's kind of hard to weave into your list, but when you can use it, when you figure out how to use it right, you can use it very effectively. So let's go ahead and take a look at the stat line. Weapon skill of 3 up, ballistic skill of 3 up, which is good because both of the weapons that it can pack fairly low amount of shots, but when they hit, they can really cause a wallop on something. Strength 5, toughness 6, 6 wounds, 2 attacks, leadership 8, and a 4 up armor save. So, this vehicle is fairly fragile, only at toughness 6. So I believe the same as a land speeder, and the 4 up armor save isn't really going to be helping you too much because most of the time people are shooting things like las cannons at vehicles, and that could really mess this thing up with only having 6 wounds. However, saying that, bolters are wounding it on a 5, so if your opponent gets smart and thinks that he can only take it down, or take it down with only bolters, something of that nature, it can weather the storm. Let's go ahead and look at its special rules. It has Canticles of the Omnissiah, of course, Bionics, giving it a 6 up invulnerable save, broad spectrum data tether, friendly Forge World units within 3 inches of any friendly models equipped with the broad spectrum, the broad spectrum data tether at the start of the morale phase can add 1 to their leadership. So what this means is Vanguard and Ranger units can take a upgrade to the squad called a broad spectrum data tether, and that lets them re-roll failed morale test. So if they have that and this vehicle is within 3 inches, they also add 1 to their leadership, which is nice. Has the explode special rule. On a 6, it explodes. Units within 3 suffer 1 mortal wound. I think that's the lightest you can get off, actually. Yeah. Okay, anyhow, let's take a look at its weapons. It has a twin Cognis autocannon base, 48-inch range, heavy 4, strength 7, AP -1, damage of 2. You can fire this weapon even if the model advanced, but you must subtract 2 from hit rolls if you do so. So, that is a little concerning, and I can't ever see myself using that because you have to think that it's a heavy weapon, so -1 for moving, then you advanced, so it goes from a 4 up just for moving to a 5 up, then a 6 up, which is really what makes this vehicle a hard thing to weave into your list, because it has all this mobility and it can zip around the board, but when it does that, it just absolutely cripples itself. So the only thing I can really see you doing is sprinting it to where you need it and then sitting it there, but there's plenty of other units that can just do it better, which is really a shame. The other weapon you can upgrade it to is the Twin Cognis las cannon, 48-inch range, heavy 2, strength 9, AP minus 3, damage of d6, with the same rule of you can still fire when you advance, but you must subtract 2. Um, so yeah, if you're really looking to bring las cannons with your admech, here's how you do it. Let's go ahead and move on to my more preferable, I suppose, variant of this model, the Sidonian Dragoon. Um, Same exact stat line, same exact stat line except for one feature. It has 3 attacks instead of 2. And I should mention in the other one that it's strength 5 with 2 attacks, so I mean, you know, it's not going to do great in close combat, but against other light vehicles, you know, you could cause some damage, but you really want to keep it out of combat. Anywho, with the Dragoon, it's the melee variant. It's a fast attack slot as well, and a power of 3. The one that I mentioned previously in the last codex, it was a heavy support slot, and thank God it's now fast attack. Anyways, Dragoon is a little bit cheaper, and I personally think it's just better. So its abilities are all the same, except it has an additional one, Incense Cloud. Your opponent must subtract 1 from all to hit rolls for ranged weapons that target this unit. Now, that is huge, especially with how 8th edition treats modifiers, in which you do rerolls before modifiers. So, if you have a guy that hits on a 2-up normally and is re-rolling 1s to hit, any 2s that he rolls, he can't re-roll them because they're technically hits until after his re-rolling phase, and then they turn into misses. So that's pretty huge, not to mention just subtracting 1 for people who don't have re-rolls is huge. And yeah, so before Instance Cloud in the last edition just gave you a 5-up cover save, which wasn't bad because when you got Shroudhelm off, you could be out in the open and have a 2-up cover save. But I think that this is actually better, because if you are 50% obscured, then you're getting a 3-up. But it makes it so that this melee unit can get into melee without getting shot so much that it just dies on the way in from Overwatch or something silly like that. So let's go ahead and talk about what kind of weapons it can bring. It comes base with just one, the Taser Lance. So it's a melee weapon, strength plus 3, so you're hitting at strength 8, AP nothing, damage of 2. For each hit roll of a 6 with this weapon, it causes 3 hits rather than 1. This is one of my favorite weapons in the game because it's just so good at popping exactly what I need it to. I use this guy almost like an interceptor. So I see a rhino full of some god-awful variant, Stern Guard, Vanguard, driving up the sideline. I put this guy down, I go and engage them, and he can pop the rhino and, stop them from getting into a really, really good place. That's the main thing that I'll use him for. He's also not bad at picking off HQs, things like that. He's making 3 attacks, hitting on a 3-up, and you literally just about double your shots if you get a 6. Figure you're hitting at strength 8, you're wounding a Lehman Russ on a 4, a Predator on a 3. So it's nothing to scoff at. The other thing it can take is a Phosphor Serpenta, which is an 18-inch, assault 1, strength 5, AP minus 1, damage of 1. Almost like Little Pistol, but it doesn't have the pistol special rule. Units being attacked by this weapon do not gain a bonus to their saving throw due to cover. Not bad. Last edition it was there because you could shoot something with this, and anything that was shot and wounded by phosphor weapons you could re-roll failed charges against. So it was like him firing the pistol and marking it for the servitor built into the machine that he's riding. Uh, so the servitor could pick up exactly where he needed to guide the machine. You can replace your taser lance with a Radium Giselle, which is a 30-inch, heavy 2, strength 5, AP nothing, damage of 1 sniper rifle, basically. This weapon may target a character even if it is not the closest enemy unit. Each time you make a wound roll of a 6+, it inflicts a mortal wound in addition to its normal damage. This is kind of neat, however, I think it really defeats the purpose of the Dragoon, and has the same problems as the other variant that I just spoke on. Plus, it's a 30-inch sniper rifle, which isn't great. I mean, you might... Oh, wow, okay, yeah. So, last edition, I wonder if they cut that out just to save space, because the sniper rule is so long. Anyways, this weapon is a Radium Giselle, so it belongs to the Radium family of weapons, like how all plasma has the 2 different stat lines. The Radium weapons, on a 6 to wound, they dealt 2 damage instead of 1. However, this one just does a mortal... Oh, mortal wound in addition? No, that's how all snipers are. Never mind. Yeah, so it just, like, lost its special ability for being a radium weapon. I mean, hitting on a 4-up with 2 shots at 30-inch range, where you're probably about to get mowed down next turn. Strength 5, so probably wounding on a 4 or 3. But that damage of 1, I just can't see it being too useful. I would rather just charge. If I'm close enough there, I'm just going to advance and hide behind something along those lines. In the next turn, I'm just going to charge your character and get him with a taser lance more reliably. So let's see where we're at in the recording. Yeah, we have time. Okay, yeah, we're going to go ahead and finish off the index with my favorite unit in the game. No problem saying that, is the Onager Doomcrawler. Now, this thing has just become a champ. It was great last edition, and it's even better this edition. So it's a heavy support slot, it's a power of 6, and it is the Adeptus Mechanicus' main battle tank. And I'm willing to say it is the best main battle tank in the entire Imperium. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, I'm pretty sure a Baneblade could take it on. I'm not talking about super heavies here. I'm saying put it up next to a Leman Russ, a Predator. I'm not exactly sure what Sisters of Battle use. Put it up next to any of them. I can guarantee you it'll win every day. And let's go ahead and see why. So, in the index, it has the damage tables for models with over 10 wounds. However, there has been an FAQ released on it. The first bracket in the index is 7 to 11. They FAQ'd it to 6 to 11, so it got even better. So at 6 to 11, its movement is 8, ballistic skill 3, 3 attacks. 3 to 5 wounds, movement of 6, ballistic skill of a 4-up, D3 attacks, 1 to 2 wounds, 4 movement, BS 5-up, and 1 attack. With its weapon skill at a consistent 5-up, strength 6, toughness 7, 11 wounds, leadership 8, and a save of a 3-up. So, this model comes base with just an eradication beamer. And we'll get into that in a second. However, I want to go ahead and cover its special rules first. So it too has Canticles of the Omnissiah, Anonymous Force Field. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Yeah, we'll go with that. Anyhow, the model has a 5-up invulnerable save, and you can reroll invulnerable saving throws of 1 for any Onager Doomcrawler that is at least within 6 inches of another friendly Onager Doomcrawler. So how this rule worked last edition was it came base with a 6-up invuln, and for every dune crawler within 3 inches, I believe, it added another one to its invulnerable save to a maximum of 4. So it kind of reminds me of the knight, where you've been reduced down to a 5-up instead of 4-up, but you don't have to worry about facings, you don't have to worry about having them real close together, or things of that nature. And actually, last edition, it wasn't within 3 inches, it was within 3 inches, and they had to be in the same squadron, I believe. Anyhow, moving on, it can take smoke launchers or a broad spectrum data tether, which I've already covered, and smoke launchers are just a straight -1 to hit if you don't shoot this turn. And it has the crawler special rule. This model can only advance D3, but it ignores the -1 penalty to hit for moving and firing a heavy weapon, which is important, and I'll get to that later. Also has the explodes special rule because it's a vehicle. When it's reduced to 0 wounds on a 6, it explodes. Models within 6 inches suffers D3 mortal wounds, which that could end up hurting you, but I don't think by that much. So moving on, it starts out base with the eradication beamer. 36-inch range, heavy D6, strength 8, AP2, D3. Not a terrible weapon. I would not, scoff at this. I think it's pretty excellent. It's basically a short-ranged battle cannon. Yeah, but the special thing about it is when attacking units within 12 inches, charge this weapon, change the type to heavy D3, but resolve the shots with an AP of -4 and damage of D6. So, attacking units within... Oh, excuse me, not when they charge. I misspoke terribly there. When units are within 12 inches, basically. So, when enemies that you're firing at are within 12, it changes to you're getting less shots, but they're hitting much harder at -4 AP and a damage of D6. So, getting in other vehicles, other big monsters' faces, and at longer range, sniping out infantry. Now, my problem is that feels really weird to me, because I would rather have my enemy's infantry next to my tank, and it hurting them like that, than a giant monster next to the tank. And I think I fielded the eradication beamer once, and that's kind of why. Also, the upgrades aren't too expensive on it. They're like 10 points for massively amazing upgrades. Can also, for no upgrade points, for 0 points, you can take a twin heavy phosphor blaster to replace the eradication beamer, which is range 36, so same range, heavy 6, so flat 6, strength 6, AP -2, damage of 1. They don't receive the benefit of cover when being shot at. It's not bad, but I've never seen it fielded by anyone, and I know why. Because if you are wanting to run heavy phosphor blasters, you run it on Castellans, which are just better at it, and you run this guy as an anti-tank option / anti-flyer. And now let me get into possibly the 2 best weapons for tanks in the entire game. Let's start off with the Icarus Array, which is really unmatched in its AA potential. When attacking with this weapon, you can fire all 3 of the profiles below. So, starts out with the Deadless Missile Launcher, 48-inch range, heavy 1, strength 7, AP -3, damage of D6. Moves on to the Gatling Rocket Launcher, range 48, heavy 5, strength 6, AP -2, damage of 1. Then finishes up with the Twin Icarus Autocannon, range 48, heavy 4, strength 7, AP -1, damage of 2. Special rule for all of these weapons that you fire at your target is add 1 to the hit rolls made for this weapon against targets that can fly. Subtract 1 from hit rolls from all other targets. So, if you're fighting flyers, which has become a very broad definition now, such as assault marines have keyword fly, anything that has a jump pack, basically anything that leaves the ground for more than 2 seconds, hover bikes, monoliths, anything like that, land speeders, you get a +1 to hit, meaning you're hitting on a 2-up. Now, how I normally run these things is I run 2 to 3 of them. I like to run 2 with the neutron laser, which I'll get to in just a moment, and 1 with the Icarus array, because even if you have to shoot and hit on a 4-up, they're normally next to Belisarius' Call. So now they're in the back next to each other, getting a 5-up, re-rolling 1's invuln save, and re-rolling failed to hit rolls. Let's get into one of the best anti-tank vehicles, or anti-tank weapons in the game, the neutron laser. So 48-inch range, which is nice. Move them up really just not even midfield, I would say, halfway into your deployment zone if you're deploying like hammer and anvil, something like that. And you should have good board coverage, because what you're going to want to do is snipe things like Bane Blades, like other main battle tanks, and that's what this is good at. 48-inch range is plenty. Heavy D3, so that can be a little concerning to some people, thinking, oh my god, I'm only getting 1 shot. Trust me, it's worth spending a command point on. It's what I find myself spending command points on, is, either getting more shots with this weapon, or if I roll good enough to begin with, doing more damage with it. And you can see why, because it's strength 10, AP -4, damage of D6. Treat damage rolls of 1 or 2 made by this weapon as 3 instead. So, as long as 1 wound slips by, the minimum damage you can do is 3. So you gotta think, you got 2 of these, you're getting 2d3 shots at strength 10, AP -4. This thing's wounding knights on 3s. It wipes out it wipes out all but 2-up armor saves, and 2-ups are pushed to a 6-up. And then anything that does make it through is doing absurd amounts of damage. I'm not joking when I tell you this thing mauls Bane Blades. I've faced people who've run 2 to 3 Bane Blades against me, and I was killing about 1 per turn with these things, and they just wouldn't die because of their invuln save. And that's really the biggest thing about this tank, is that it can move, so it can shuffle to side is what it's normally doing, and fire at full ballistic skill to all of its weapons, and when it gets shot by something that's meant to be anti-tank, like las cannons, things like that, things most tanks just have to go, okay, you wounded me, well now I don't get my armor save. This actually has an invuln save, and a pretty decent one at that. It's not some, make a 6-up, and that's it. It's a 5-up re-rolling, so a third of the time you're just going to stop it, and for a sixth of the time you get to take another shot at that. And if you really need to, go ahead and spend a command point and re-roll one of those saves. It's saved me before. Also, the way its brackets work are amazing too, because its bottom bracket when you're hitting on a 5-up is only 1 and 2, right? So you're running an army of engineers, of, mechanics. All of your characters can repair D3 wounds each turn. He should be back by characters, preferably behind them, to be honest, because these are a huge part of your gun line. There is really no way, unless you're down to 1 wound, on an average roll, even if you are down to 1 wound, you're going to bump up to the hitting on a 4+ bracket. Also, one other thing I failed to mention, if you take a neutron laser, it comes with a Cognus heavy stubber, and then you can pay additional points for another Cognis Heavy Stubber on top of the tank. You can always pay for one that goes on top, however, when you buy the neutron laser, it comes with one that's underslung under the barrel. So if you have the neutron laser and the one on top, you're putting out 6 shots, or you can just buy the one on top for 3 shots. It's a heavy stubber, range 36, heavy 3, strength 4, AP nothing, damage of 1, and if you advance with this, you subtract 2 from the hit rolls. So, we spoke about Cognis earlier, and I kind of ragged on it, but because this has the crawler special rule, and it ignores the penalty for heavy weapons, you've doubled your chances, because now instead of just hitting on a 6, you're hitting on 5s and 6s. So if you absolutely have to, shuffle, get away, something of that nature, you can still fire these if you need to. Plus, this is nice to just be able to, pick off the last guy in a squad, do some last-ditch damage to another vehicle, try and drop it from that bracket. It's really just, it's not the best thing. You're putting out 6 bolter shots, basically, that you can fire when you advance. But yeah, this tank is really just one of the best in the Imperium. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the series. I know I enjoyed making it. If you have any suggestions for when I make the Imperial Guard series or the Space Marine series, please leave them in the comments. I appreciate feedback. I've run a YouTube channel before, and I'm starting this one back up. I stopped the other one simply because I didn't have enough time on my hands, and I'm starting to make time for it. So, leave a like if you enjoyed it, comment, subscribe if you want to see more. This channel is mainly going to be focusing on Warhammer 40k, and I might be starting up a podcast here pretty soon as well, sort of a once a week kind of thing. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and this has been Matters That Matter.